Yo, what's going on, everybody? We have new Star Wars Jedi Survivor gameplay. Draw Raptor, shout out to him, got to play 4 hours of the game, and I'm gonna react to it. Smash that like button, and let's get straight into it.
1 hour into the game is just how much more cinematic the game feels. This was of course already apparent in the recent story trailer, but I was still really surprised by the amount of new characters and plot lines that were introduced very early on, which I think only bodes well for the rest of the game.
Looks like a lot of CGI going on. Looks very cinematic. So hopefully, the game play itself looks just as good.
And while we've seen and mentioned him before already, I cannot stress enough how cool of a villain Rayvis is. After seeing that introduction scene in full, I can't wait to see what role he will end up playing for the rest of the game. But I don't want to talk too much about the story because I don't want to spoil any of the surprises, but something that I can talk about in depth is the amount of customization. And man, is there a lot to go over. The first thing you will notice when going to one of the familiar workbenches is the fact that you can now fully customize your droid companion BD1. You can
Alright, this is where games get me, man. I absolutely love customizing anything. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it's very in-depth, it is absolutely amazing to me to be able to customize pieces of the game. And this should be like grounds for the most amazing customization that there is, because there's droids, there's lightsabers, there's like cosmetics on your body. So I'm hoping that they do a great job with customization in this game.
swap out his binoculars, antennae, legs, you name it, and on top of that, the color customization is way more in-depth than just applying a color scheme. You're now able to pick different main and highlight colors and even change the wear and tear to make BD look freshly polished or freshly blasted to bits. The same also applies to lightsaber customization, where you can also change the polish on individual parts. So some very significant upgrades when compared to Fallen Order, and I'm happy to say the same is also true when it comes to customizing our protagonist Cal. Instead of choosing between a poncho and an outfit, you can now change Cal's hairstyle, beard, jacket, shirt, and pants.
Didn't look like there's a lot going on with the facial customization though, like the hair and stuff. But again, I don't know. Hopefully they do a good job of this.
Jackets, shirts, and pants are all part of a set from what I've seen so far, meaning the individual pieces will look best when paired together, although you can of course mix and match pieces as you see fit. I ran around with the tactical cloak as soon as I unlocked it, but you can also put on a bomber jacket and give Cal a mullet and a goatee. So depending on your choices, Cal can look completely different. There are also color schemes available for your outfits, but these have to be unlocked separately from the—
Hey, that man running around with a mullet. I might have to rock the mullet. And it looks like we're going to be able to change the color scheme of the clothes as well. I guess, I don't know. They kind of fall flat, in my opinion. Like, I feel like you should be able to have all kinds of clothing items and everything. And maybe I just don't know yet because, again, this is early gameplay. So, a lot is yet to be seen. So, we'll see.
The actual piece of clothing. And while there are other ways to earn cosmetics now, more on that later, you can still find a lot of them in the familiar chest we know from Fallen Order. Which makes exploring Koboh way more interesting, of course, as there are a lot more exciting items to find and of course way more areas to explore. Similar to Ghost of Tsushima or certain Ubisoft games, you can talk to NPCs in Rambler's Reach or out when exploring Koboh, who will sometimes give you valuable information on interesting locations to visit. These locations are then marked on your map, and while you never really know what you're getting into, so far these points of interest have all been really cool. There's a watchtower taken over by the Bedlam Raiders, an old mine factory, but the coolest one by far is exploring an abandoned mine and stumbling upon a Rancor. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can fight a Rancor after a little more than 2 hours of play if you know where to look. Be careful not to let him grab you though, as well, I think the footage here kind of speaks for itself. And by the way, if you've got any questions so far, drop them in the comments. A Q&A video.
Now that looked dope. As far as enemies go. But again, I don't know what to think. I mean, again, this is early gameplay, so I don't really know, but I don't know what y'all thinking already. Down in the comments. Put it down.
Video next where we try to answer your questions based on my 4-hour experience.
I got a force.
So yes, exploring and unlocking cosmetics is of course awesome, but I was even more excited by the fact that there are a lot of unlockable upgrades to make Cal even more of a powerhouse. You can find these blue crystals on both the main path and when exploring, and these can contain things like health and force upgrades, skill points, or even better perks. The way those work is pretty simple, but it adds another welcome layer of depth to Jedi Survivor's combat. You start out with 3 slots, but the game immediately tells you that you are able to increase that number over the course of the game, which you'll want to do because more powerful perks can take up multiple perk slots. I was able to find 2.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The combat does look fire, man. That looks vintage Star Wars, using the Force, building up your power, and destroying cats.
Of them during my play session. The first one took up 1 slot and increased your guard meter, meaning you can block more consecutive hits. But the Shatter perk I came across a little later took up 2 slots and actually increases your guard damage against enemies. So from what I've seen so far, these are mostly passive and not so much an earth-shattering change to Cal's abilities, but more of a way to improve a specific part of your playstyle. But with 25 of them in total, I'm sure there's going to be some tough choices that need to be made. Although you can swap them out freely at any meditation points, so you're free to experiment to your heart's content. Now, one thing I haven't really touched on is the importance of Rambler's Reach, which is a settlement on Kobo that, at least for now, serves as your home base. You'll have a lot of reasons to return here, as you can recruit new NPCs to come here and unlock new features. An example of this is your interaction with the DJ Ash and her droid DD, who will set up a DJ booth in the cantina after you talk to them, which will effectively function as a jukebox with new songs being purchasable from Doma, another NPC in Rambler's Reach that will also sell you tons of different cosmetics like a badass mohawk or the...
Okay, so as you progress, you're getting more cosmetics. I do, again, like I said, when it comes to customization, man, the more in-depth it can be, the better. So this is actually dope that you can get this later on in the game, like the game is ever changing with like certain missions completed and stuff, it seems.
Pretty cool Corsair jacket. To buy her wares, you need a unique resource known as priorite shards. I was able to find plenty of these while exploring Kobo already. Some of them can be found lying around, and some of them are carried by these scavenger droids that will run away and dig themselves into the ground if they feel threatened. I was able to sneak up on one and get it that way, but once they spot you, they're pretty tricky to get a hold of. I'm also pretty sure there are more unique resources than just priorites, so I'm betting Doma isn't the only merchant willing to sell us cool stuff. And as if that wasn't enough, you're also able to find plant seeds in the open world and make your own little garden, and you'll unlock new interactions and conversations with the people living in the settlement after hitting major story beats. So again, there will be plenty of reasons to return here on the regular, which is of course even easier thanks to the addition of fast travel that allows you to instantly teleport to any previously unlocked meditation point. Now, there are instances in which fast travel is blocked, mostly when you're in a specific area for the story so it doesn't mess up progression, but other than that, there are no restrictions. And you'll still be able to unlock a lot of shortcuts, so coming back to a previously visited area with new abilities to maybe unlock some new secrets is going to be a breeze. Cal's newly found ability to tame animals also really helps with this. I was able to try out both the mount, which is called the Neko, and the flying belter that you can use as a glider on Kobo. The belter can help you quickly cross long distances from a high vantage point, although there are gusts of wind that you can use to regain altitude if you fly over them. The Neko, on top of being really cute and a much faster way of getting around, is also a tool you can use to reach new areas thanks to its high jump.
I feel like a lot of open world games are starting to implement more particulars around the animal, like, because these two animals look awesome. They look amazing.
Using a double jump, Cal leaps off the Neko's back in mid-air, allowing you to reach much higher than you would with your regular double jump. And as soon as you unlock the ability to tame one of these creatures, you can use it on any that you come across. So if you see a Neko with a different pattern or color on the fur that you like more, you can tame that one and bring it back to the stables in Rambler's
shiny hunting
use. Like maybe you want one that matches your lightsaber color, which is of course something you can still customize at one of the workbenches. But new for Jedi Survivor is that you can also change your lightsaber configuration at any meditation point. Quick refresher for if you don't know, in Jedi Survivor, Cal will have access to 5 different lightsaber stances. Single-bladed, dual-bladed, dual-wield, cross-guard, and a saber blaster stance. You can only have 2 of these active in your loadout at any time, but you can freely swap between your available options by selecting stances when meditating, where you also see how they compare in power, speed, range, and defense. While both the single and dual-bladed sabers still feel really good to use, I ran around with the dual sabers for most of my preview. They're really quick and satisfying and have unlockable skills that can either close or create distance between you and an enemy, so you're super mobile in combat as well. And on the note of the skill tree, this still works in a similar fashion to Fallen Order, although your options are greatly expanded. So you earn XP by defeating enemies, and when the bar fills up, you get a skill point, but you of course lose progress towards your next skill point if you die. And that's going to be even more of a problem in Jedi Survivor, as there will be a lot more skills to choose from. Each lightsaber configuration has its...
Yeah, that just sounds extremely complicated. Like, the skill tree sounds like it's going to be a lot of work to perfect.
Own skill tree, and with at least 8 unlockable skills per saber stance that was available in the demo, it's definitely smart to focus on 1 or 2 styles that you enjoy, as you're not going to have the skill points needed to unlock all of them early. And keep in mind that all of this is adding on top of what was already there in Fallen Order, as most of the skills you had in that game are available right off the bat in Jedi Survivor. So no need to wait before you can start force pushing and pulling people, and there is even a new trick you're able to perform, which is Force Confusion. This is effectively Cal's version of a Jedi mind trick and allows you to target an enemy and make them attack their allies. I was even able to unlock an upgrade for it, which let me use it on larger beasts. So I was able to turn this giant Biomol, a new enemy that's also very fun to fight, against a squad of stormtroopers and let it do the dirty work for me. So definitely...
That right there reminds me a lot of Forbidden West, where you can, control the machines or whatever, and this seems to have like the similar mechanics.
Definitely a great way to even the odds when you're outnumbered. One thing I am still curious about is if upgrading powers is something we get to see more. I was only able to find the upgrade to Confusion from one of those blue crystals I mentioned earlier, but because it was part of the main story, I don't know if you can also find ability upgrades by simply exploring. I hope that is the case, but we'll have to wait and see. I've mostly focused on all the new things you can do so far, but I absolutely have to mention the incredible enemy variety on display in these opening hours. I already mentioned the Biomol, but there are way more alien creatures that will gladly take you for their lunch if you're not careful. The Mogu is a particularly dangerous one, as we already saw the first time this creature was shown in a trailer, but what we now learned is that you can give yourself an advantage by cutting off one of its arms. Since it uses its claws for most attacks, this will make it much...
That's dope. And I'm guessing that there'll probably be a bestiary to go along with the multitude of enemies that I've already seen in just this playthrough.
Much less dangerous, but you have to admire the dedication of someone still coming at you full force after losing an arm. We already saw a lot of the Bedlam Raiders in previously shown footage, but they're really fun to fight, and the banter from the battle droids never fails to put a smile on my face.
Alright, and this is another thing. If I can chop the arm off of one of them monsters, I should be able to chop all his arms off, all his legs off, and I should be able to do that to all the droids and drones coming at me and the enemies coming at me. I feel like sometimes the game limits you for one enemy that you should be able to do to all enemies. Like, I don't really understand that aspect of gaming.
I was even able to face off against a new type of Imperial trooper with a shield that can be problematic to deal with if you're without any force power. If you do, however, you can yank the shield from their hands with force pull and then blast it back in their face with push for a quick finish. And while I was able to learn a lot more about the game thanks to my hands-on time, I was mostly left hungry for more. There were a lot of things on Kobo alone that I still wanted to complete but didn't have time for, like a force stair I found that leads into a challenge room with a platform puzzle. You see that laser grid coming towards you? The red side will kill you and the green side will let you pass, but each time you jump, the two halves flip sides. So you really have to be smart about your jump timings and placing if you want to reach the end of this challenge. And all of this is...
Now that's dope. Hey, combining you thinking on the fly and literally flying to get to the end of the puzzle. That's dope. I actually like that.
available pretty much right at the start of the game, so I can only imagine the amount of cool stuff we're able to discover when we get our hands on the full version. Which is already in less than a month if you'll believe it, but before that we'll have more videos on Jedi Survivor up on the channel. So subscribe to not miss those, and again, share your questions for our upcoming Q&A video in the
Alright, so that's my man Joel Raptor. If I've already pre-ordered Jedi Survivor, what are y'all doing? Put it down in the comments. I would love to know. I don't know if Star Wars Jedi Survivor is going to hold the candle that Hogwarts Legacy did for. I'm still gonna play it. You want more? Click on that video. Click on that video. Y'all already know what it is. Y'all already know what it was. It's your boy Dubs. CP. Here to do one thing and one thing only. And that's blow up! Deuces.